Ladies and gents, Tyson here from relaxrunning.com. Welcome back to another week of the Relax Running podcast. Thanks for joining us. Really good to have you here. Caught up with the great man Liam Adams today, who's an Australian marathon runner. Liam's just qualified for the 2020 Olympics, which is temporarily, well, I don't think it's gone ahead. I think they've delayed it. I think the actual IOC has said that there's going to be no Olympics this year. So I caught up with Liam just before that announcement was made. Wanted to hear his headspace, wanted to hear his thoughts, because he'd recently qualified in Japan for the marathon, running 2 hours 10, which is the second fastest time in Australia since, I think, Lee Troop ran it in about 2003. So Liam's hit some mighty fine form. So it was interesting just to sit down with him and pick his brain, not only around, what it feels like in this particular time for a distance runner, anticipating the Olympics, or what he hopes would be the Olympics in the next little while, but just how he monitors his training and adjusts it in the meantime when he's trying to figure out what the heck is going on. We had a really good chat about all things training, and like most weeks, I try and pick his brain about his perspective on how to improve as a distance runner. Really interesting. He's working full-time as an electrician, and for a bloke who's just qualified for the Olympics, I think you're going to be amazed at the amount of work that he's doing on his feet every day, the early mornings that he's up to start workout, how he fits his training in and around that. I think it's a really inspiring conversation for any of you who are balancing full-time work with your running training, and a real encouragement to know that if a bloke like Liam can do it and do it at such a high level, then hey, there's still a lot of chance for you to be able to improve your running rapidly, even if you're working full-time. So I think you'll really enjoy that. We did a bonus podcast episode with Liam as well. So if you enjoyed this chat, there's a lot more that you can listen to if you're a Relax Running member. Relax Running members, we release 2 bonus podcasts a month. We have an Elite Insight video library. There's a forum where you can connect with a whole heap of other runners, ask you questions. If you want training programs, we've got all that there for you. It's a good little community. So it's $5 a month. Jump on board. You have a 3 free-day trial. If you sign up for that $5 a month program and you decide after 2 or 3 days you don't like it, you can obviously just end it there, and there's no charge to you, but you'll still get access to a lot of the interviews. But be good to have you to stick around. Guys, that's about all from me. Let me get out of your way. This is myself and Liam Adams. I was thinking before you got here, I think I asked you, the last time we actually hung out was bloody years ago now. When was it actually? It must have, it was probably on the same trip with Jess Trengove in Canada where I trained with you for a little while.
It was training after that maybe. You were still training.
Because where are you based? I was out in the western suburbs of Melbourne. I was living in Footscray, and I remember I reached out to you because you were kicking my ass every race. And
along the Melbourne River, I reckon, yeah. Because I still do lots of running out there. So
it's a perfect place to run. Yeah. The memory I have is one day me, you, and Waleed, do you remember? It was like a absolutely pumping, terrible day for running, and we were running through like big, deep mud baths, and we finished the run that looked like we'd been mud wrestling. Do you remember that?
I do, yeah.
Where was that?
I think there's many of stories with Wallet and stuff like that. I'm not sure if this is the one that you were on.
Yeah.
But I reckon it was Ash Watson for this one. But we went for a long run along Maribyrnong River, came back along the muddy side that you're probably talking about now, slipping over and whatever else. But there was that one run where we're running along, it started bucketing down rain, and we've dropped Wallet. I'm pretty sure it was Ash Watson this time. Yeah. But we've dropped Wallet and we're like, okay, we've just got to wait a little bit once we get back to the cars. And we get back to the cars and we don't see Wallet. So we've decided to turn the we're under this there's like barbecues and stuff like that. So it's freezing cold. So we've turned the barbecues on and we're just using them to heat up. So we're sitting on the barbecues to keep warm and we're waiting for Wallet. And probably about 20, 30 minutes later, Wallet rocks up in a cab. He apparently knocked on the door and of just some random's house. He's just cracked it in this run. He's just walked off. He's gone to the side, knocked on someone's door and asked if they could call a cab for him. So we're freezing cold. We couldn't get into our cars because the keys were locked in Wallet's car. So we're just shivering there.
Oh, man, he's a blast from the past, bro.
And I'm sure you've got a million stories.
I do have a million stories, but I actually didn't ever really spend a heap of time with Lee outside of your group.
Yeah.
But I would always see him at a race and just immediately feel a million times more calm. Because I would go up and I'm like, hey, what are you doing, man? How you going? It's like, everything was so chilled.
Yeah.
But he's a name that comes with some funny stories.
Yeah.
But that's funny. I'd love to pick your brain for ages.
I reckon that's probably the last time we'll probably catching up around then. Maybe when you're doing some
2012?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, that's because I finished up in 2013 or 14.
Yeah.
But man, it was there were some good times around there. 2010 was good as well. Like I've laughed a little bit with Jess's stories. And how you going? All right?
Hey, hello.
Hey.
What's going on? I'm the king editor in these moments as well. That was funny a couple of weeks ago. Actually, we were sitting in here. And there was a whole family outside having a barbecue. I might not even edit that part out. We're getting these local, because where we're recording right now, it's I call this the podcast studio. So it's level 9, the community terrace of our apartment block. These little Asian dudes just strutted through with a piece of steak.
That was good.
That was good quality. What was I saying? So I've been getting sentimental because I caught up with Jess Stenson now, Jess Trengove, and we were talking about this Canada trip. And that was the first time I reckon I spent some quality time with you. And I remember the day after your race, which I think you finished second that year. And it was a bloody close race. I reckon I saw you in your finest form because it was celebration hour. And I reckon I woke up to cuddles from Liam Adams that next morning. And remember the hotel owner came up to us and he's like, "Guy, you got to settle down."
Yeah.
And I think I can't remember what we said, but man, it was just the funniest experience those couple of weeks in Canada.
Oh, it was a good trip. It was a great bunch of people on that trip, and that's what really makes those trips. And I've got memories of that. Yeah, definitely. And there's friends from that trip that you'd say are friends for a lifetime. Obviously, it's a great bunch of people, and it's a stepping stone for a lot of runners. Yeah,
so, bloody oath. That's a good way to put it. Well, you ran at a couple of World Unicross.
2, yeah.
Where was your first one?
In France.
Okay.
So there was a couple. Trying to think, there was a couple of people which were on that trip, which were on their Canadian trip as well. So I knew a couple of people before that, but a few new faces and that, and a few up and comers, and a few people that I'd called friends before that trip. So it was a good trip.
It's gone back a few years, and I'm dancing around here a little bit, but your name's come up on the podcast a couple of times because just
embarrassing stories. I reckon.
Dude, not embarrassing stuff that just Liam Adams stories that just cement you as like a running legend. Where I can't remember who I was talking to about this. It might have been Sam McEntee a few weeks ago, but your name came up, and I was just talking about the reputation you've got when it comes to just being able to punish yourself in a running, well, actually on and off the track. Here comes our mate again. Here we go. This is going to be a classic podcast. On and reflection. Yeah, that's right. On and off the track. But I reckon one of the best ones is this true? This is more like a rumor collection to make sure. He was saying we were talking about you after City Bay it was like 2014 or 15. You had maybe a shocker of a race or a race that you came second in, and you thought you should have won, and you flew in. And after flying in, did you run home from the airport?
Oh, I'm trying to think which one that would have been. With McEntee in there.
No, McEntee wasn't in the run. We were just having a chat about the fact that it happened. Am I just making up stories here? Because I've told that as fact.
I definitely did do one. I'm just trying to think what it was. I just don't think I felt like I'd raced that day. So I kind of decided, I'll give I think Charlotte was there that day, so I gave her my bag to take home with her, and I ran from the airport back home.
What a legend.
It was a 30K. I think it was 30K where I averaged, I think I started out thinking, if I go under 4-minute Ks the way back, it'd be a good run. And I started hitting 3:30s, and then I'm just started going 320s and then 310s, and then I think it averaged to about 320 maybe, something silly.
And what is that for a marathon? What pace is that? Like a 220s?
I'm not sure, but I think I did it deliberately, kind of because I wanted to be kind of marathon ready for something. So I'm just trying to think what I was training for after that. But
that's a huge story.
I think the one that I was kind of disappointed with City Bay was maybe 2016. So the Olympic year. So I came back from the Olympics and I had a pretty bad heel injury, or ankle, and I had got some scans done, so I kind of knew that I was going to be spending a few months out. Yeah. I don't think this would have been the reason why I did 30K though, because that would have been stupid of me to do that. That would have been sending me a bit longer in the recovery phase. But for the 2016 one, I was pretty disappointed. So I don't think it was because I was annoyed with the race. I think I was probably preparing for a marathon, that one. But the 2016 one, I had an injury, but I was probably I was keeping the fitness up a little bit because I had promised a friend, Steve Deneen, that I was going to pace him for Melbourne Marathon. So did City Bay. I probably shouldn't because it was only a few weeks after the Olympics and I wasn't really fit. So did that, didn't have a good result there. And I kind of did it because I needed to get some fitness for Melbourne to kind of help my friend out and pace him. So did that race and then said, yep, all right, after this race, I'm having like 2 or 3 months off because I got a pretty bad tear in my ankle. So
what was the story there? What happened to your ankle?
So it was, I think, just before the Olympics, ran that qualifying standard in Poland on the final day of the selection period. So got told I got told quietly that I had made the Olympic team and that they were going to do an announcement Monday, and I was running Great Ocean Road Run to Paradise 14K race. So I did that race and I was staying down, trying to think where it was, maybe Barwon Heads or something like that, and staying with a few friends. It was a house I wasn't familiar with, but went down, did a race there to try and start prepping for the Olympics and getting right back into the training, and had a good result down there, kind of bit of a training session, and I kind of said during the run, all right, I'm going to ramp it up here, boys. So I think maybe Brenton Rowe was in there and Nick Earl. So there's some quality guys in there. I'm like, boys, I'm going to start dropping some 250Ks here. And we were on the uphill on the Run to Paradise. So it was like just before the turnaround point, I've said, all right, I'm going here. So I started going, hitting some 250s, and the boys kind of went and they're like, nah, we're not going with you today. And so I was in pretty good shape and really like focused for the Olympics and like, yeah, sweet, awesome. This is a good way to start my prep. And that night I was like bringing stuff into the house that we were staying at because a few people were racing the next day, so we're going to go early to Great Ocean Road, to Lawn and stuff like that to kind of help people out to get their stuff before the start line and whatever else. And I was getting some stuff from the car and bringing it inside. And as I was walking out to the car, I've missed this flight of 3 stairs, and I thought I was stepping down one of the steps, and I've dropped probably about maybe 2 feet, and I've landed and jarred my ankle, and I couldn't walk properly for about a week. And with my line of work, I'm up and down ladders, and I couldn't put any weight on my foot. So I was kind of just like.
So what year did you say this was? When was
2016.
This is
so
2016.
it was just as they were about to announce the Olympic team. I'd done this jar, and I couldn't run properly for a few weeks. And I was just like, how am I going to sort this out? And Steve Deneen sorted me out and got me back running properly because it was like every time I'd go for a run, I'd feel it all the time. And I got to a point maybe a month and a half into my preparation where you could feel it a tiny bit, but it wasn't painful. It was going away. And then I had a few months of training where, couldn't feel it at all. And then came race day at Rio. It was like wet and really slippery. So we were kind of preparing for all this hot weather and stuff like that and humid weather, but it wasn't that humid. It was humid, but we had like cooler conditions that day. So we did our warm up, and in the warm up I've kind of just running around and I've slipped, and I've like slipped and kind of tweaked my ankle a little bit, and I've just gone, oh no, I can feel this. So I've like doing the warm up and I can feel it. I'm just like, oh no, this isn't good. You can't be feeling this during the race. Like before the race, this isn't going to end well. And just like played on my mind the whole race, but I could feel it every step. And then I kind of paced myself slowly, got into the race, and it just got worse as the race went on. But that wasn't kind of the issue where I kind of felt like I'd stuffed up that race. But yeah, it kind of made my ankle worse during the race. And as I crossed the finish line, there's like these two photos of me crossing the line where I'm like skating on the one foot. And it's just because it was so slippery, that finish line.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm sliding on this one foot across the finish line, and the newspapers are reporting, Liam's so fatigued that he's barely made it across the line. He can't even keep his coordination. And it was just so slippery. It was one of the Americans, like 2 positions later after me, he's just about to cross the finish line and he slips over before the finish line. And it's just so chaotic that it's just like he's just fallen over and he's just started doing push-ups on the finish line and then crosses the line and everyone's cheering him on. But then after that, everyone was like getting out there with towels and trying to wipe it down.
So is it oil on the road, or is it just purely the water on the road? That's crazy to think that an Olympic marathon.
A little bit of oil, but they're kind of like Samba Stadium. So along, you know that famous when they have their like Mardi Gras. Not Mardi Gras. But yeah, so they're.
I know that actually.
Yeah. So, it's just along there. So it's just this long stretch, and I think maybe they might have put some printing down for the Olympics. And I think it was just people sliding on the printing.
Yeah. It's interesting you say it, though, because I remember, it's such a stretched comparison, but the worst feeling before a big event is doing a little injury like that where you know it's going to affect you. I copped a corky before like a local game of footy once, and I was panicking because I was like, oh no, this is going to be a really bad game. But before the Olympics, to get a bloody niggle or to reignite a niggle like that, psychologically, that's a tough little battle that you take into a race. But I feel like also it's one of those things that I reckon you're well known for, like in my mind, but amongst a lot of people, is you've got that real ability just to push through some crazy amount of hurt.
Yeah.
Like, is that something that you've had to work on, or does that just come with the territory of being you?
Oh, it's something I've definitely worked on. Yeah. Obviously, things happen which are out of your control or whatever else, or things do happen and it's quite unfortunate. But I feel if you take the approach of if you let that affect you mentally, then you can't perform at your best. So you kind of got to block it out and pretend that you're still going to run well and go in there confident that you're going to run well. So I feel that that's the only way you can really approach situations like that. So that's been my approach all the time. You get niggles, you get injuries and whatever else, you've just got to work through it. And I guess pretty much most races I do, I've gone against it, this kind of rule. I've kind of been, you finish at all costs. So I kind of broke that rule trying to qualify for Rio Olympics and stuff like that. But that was my first race.
Yeah. Going to fix his tap.
Yeah.
Old mate who came in here before.
Just knocked it.
What was the purpose of his visit, by the way? Sorry, guys. There's a tap in this room that the one time of the day that we decided to use it, old mate's coming here and actually it might not even be him. It looks like it's got a little
It only just started then, though.
Did it? You're not a plumber, you're a electrician. Okay, no, it's all right.
Yeah.
So you won't even be able to hear it.
Yeah, no.
Brett Robertson last week, he was saying that he's got the same kind of reputation in my mind. And I asked him, I said, how do you do it? And he said, he's like, I just go to a happy place. And I was like, how do you go to a happy place when you're in that's what he said, bro. It's so funny that you mentioned Happy Gilmore, because I was going to ask.
I do like that movie.
So, like, when you say you go to not a happy place, but when you say just psychologically you switch and you're ready to go, like, how do you adjust? Like, is there any particular routine you go through? Or
Maybe I'm doing something similar. I'm going to that happy place.
Is that what you're doing?
Oh, I don't know. I just got to reassure myself that all the work's done and that this won't affect you. So you just got to treat everything, anything hard or any hurdle that you get, you just got to treat it normally and like it's the best prep you've ever had, and you're going to run well. So I guess if you can do that, then you're going to probably run the best of your ability on the day. Whereas if you said, oh, this is going to affect me, then I guess you might be giving in a bit earlier than you can, or you're not going to push as hard as you possibly can because you know that you're not going to run well, or you're not going to run your best. So there's that excuse of maybe, all right, we'll take it a little bit easier and maybe go into protection mode or whatever. So I guess it's all dependent, really.
It's funny, because I've got memories of even in high school watching you just at the front of a pack, just grinding through a race. And I knew, I don't know what it is. Matt Bailey, I put in the same category. Remember him?
Yeah, he was a gutsy runner.
Gutsy guy, man. Yeah, I put you in that same category. Brett Robertson.
I was even looking down, because he was a few years younger than me. I was always looking down at him and going, geez, he's a good runner. He's gutsy.
What is he doing these days? Because he sort of just disappeared a little bit. Probably like me, just disappeared from the scene. Don't know. It's funny when you look back at the junior days, isn't it? And just see who sort of lasted and who got going. But mate, speaking about progression and like the comparison from juniors to seniors, it's been a nice little experience watching your rise the last few years. So I'm glad. I know I said this before we hit record on the podcast, but before we, I'm glad you got the Rio Olympics under your belt, because it's a really strange sort of time at the moment. You've just run an Olympic qualifier. What did you run?
2:10:48. Yep.
2:10:48. Is that a PB?
Yeah, it's a PB.
Holy crap, that is a fast time.
Yeah. I guess when I ran the result, I actually didn't know that it was fastest time since I think 2003, maybe Lee Troop.
Oh, all Australians.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh wow! So what did Troop run back then?
Oh, he was a sub 2:10, I think, that won that race, and then I think there was another runner who also ran a 2:10 that year as well, who might have been a few months earlier than that. So
it's been a funny old time, and it's nice to have that qualifying time under your belt at the moment.
Definitely.
But what were you saying? You were supposed to, or you were hoping to run the London Marathon before you had to go to Japan. We won't say it.
Yeah.
Maybe this is a part of it.
All good. I don't mind. So I just thought last year I just had a hectic year of work. So especially towards the end, we had all these handovers, and there were some really expensive mansions in Hawthorne and Toorak and wherever else. And we were under the pump last year, so I was working some big hours, 50, 60-hour weeks towards the end of the year. And I think it was only about, I guess, before that, I tried to qualify. Should I go into detail, or just...
Man, whatever you're comfortable with. I'm happy you can say whatever you want on here. I'm not filtering anything. I understand what you do.
I'll divert back to my original plans to try and qualify for the Olympics, and that was at Gold Coast, and I missed that by 6 seconds. So it was really tough, windy conditions. So they kind of forced me to try and go out and do another marathon, and I thought, all right, Berlin's the marathon to do. So set my sights on that. And I got a chest infection for that run. So I was starting to get into some really good shape, and I was thinking, new beauty, this is where I run the qualifying standard, and I try and cement my spot here. And got the chest infection, and just 4 or 5 weeks where I couldn't run well. So I wasn't really doing more than 100K weeks, and went to Berlin knowing that I wasn't going to run well. So I just said, I just spent bit over $5,000 for flights, accommodation, and whatever else for this race. I'm like, free hit at the Olympics. So let's just try and just run the qualifier and see if that's going to be enough. And I just went to pace and fell off at about 29K and like, I'm done here. The chest is really struggling. So I like, after that, I'm like, I pulled the pin in that race at about 34K mark, and I'm just like, all right, I need some time off to get the body right. This chest infection's been shocking. So had a bit of time off work, off running. Was like, all right, I'm going to get back into it. But then work got chaotic and there's some big hours. And from September to early December, I was probably only doing 60K weeks.
Yeah, really?
Yeah, so really small, and I had plans of doing Zatopek, and I just threw them out the window just because work was my priority at the time.
Yeah.
So the running took a little bit of a shift, and I'm just like, I originally wanted to do Lake Biwa Marathon, had my entry in, and I only started to build up general fitness in December. And then it was start of January where I was like starting to do some marathon training. So I hit my first, I think I jumped from about 140K straight into a 210K week.
Wow.
That was that, it was that week where it was every K is $1 for the bushfires and stuff like that. And that was roughly when I started my marathon prep, and that was the period, or the weeks or two before that, it was like quite kind of smoky because I was up in Sydney for just around New Year's, visiting Charlotte's parent and whatever else. So I wasn't getting some good training in there, and then you started getting smoking conditions in Melbourne and then Falls Creek and that, and I'm just like, I'm not going to get the required training in for Lake Biwa. So I'm like, all right, got to try and get into another marathon. I don't know if we'll edit out the name of that marathon. So I was looking for something around April, May, and got the no from that. And I kind of knew that I was going to get the no from that race once I saw the fields announced. So it is what it is. So I was just like, all right, I got to go all in here. So I was kind of arms are tied, Lake Biwa. So let's go do a short prep and try and qualify for the Olympics. So had 4 weeks off work and just trained like a professional athlete. And I was racking up my biggest mileage weeks ever. So I think before this little stint at Falls Creek, my highest mileage week was about 238. I think this one I averaged 243, 244 Ks a week for 4 weeks straight. And yeah, I think
how'd the body adjust? How'd you find? Obviously pretty bloody well.
Oh, well, surprisingly well, yeah. If you told me that you're going to do that type of mileage, I'm like, don't know how I'll do it.
So how do you structure that kind of mileage? What are you doing? Like, what does your week look like in that situation?
Well, generally my weeks are, just because of work, I'm 1 run a day. So being in that situation where I'm training like a professional athlete, I can do 2 runs a day. So it was a lot easier. And interestingly, those big mileage weeks, those 240 plus K weeks, were easier than a standard week where I'm at work working for, like, say, my average working week, 40 to 45 hour weeks, and then trying to fit in 180K weeks on top of that.
So is that what you're usually doing? You're working a full-time job and then on top of that run the 180K a week?
Yeah.
So
I try and
one run each day?
Yes, yeah.
What does that equal out? I'm trying to do the maths right now.
It's generally, I try and look at about 30K a day, but it's not, because 30K a day is like 210. Yeah. So I'm short of that. I try and get towards 200K weeks, but generally I found over the last few years 180K is kind of that sweet spot. So
what time are you getting up what time do you start actually? You must be having some early morning.
It's not a morning run, I tell you that. I wouldn't be able to fit it in. So I guess I find out where I'm working the night before. So sometime maybe after 9 o'clock I might be getting a text message saying you're working here. This time we're starting, and it could be other side of the city, it could be pretty close or whatever else. But generally, you're travelling about 30, 45 sometimes an hour.
Yeah.
So most days we generally start 7:30, but you have days where you're starting 6 or even earlier if you're working in a restaurant and you're starting at about 4:30 in the morning.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, so some nights I'll just go through a general day.
That'd be awesome to see.
Say I start at 7 o'clock in the morning, so getting up maybe 5:30, 6, getting up, just a general thing, drive to work, start 7, get home from work, because it's generally I'm working more than 8-hour days, so I'm getting home, I'm finishing maybe somewhere between 4 o'clock and 5, and then driving home, so I'm getting home at maybe 6, and by the time I'm starting my run, it might be pretty much 6 or somewhere between 6 and 7:30, so I'm starting my run then or starting training around then. So once I'm finishing training, I'm probably getting home 9:30, 10, and then it's like, all right, dinner, lunches, prepare for tomorrow, unwind. It's getting close to 12 o'clock that I'm trying to start heading towards bed or whatever. So I'm getting bugger all sleep, and I'm a person who just loves my sleep. So I'm waking up like a zombie every morning. I'm just like, oh, so much pain. I wish I could get another hour or 2 sleep, but it's just, I'm not a morning person. I'm more of a night person. So I struggle to get to sleep, and then I just wanting to sleep in a bit longer. So I just try and maximize my sleep in the morning. So when the boss says you got a 4:30 start in the morning, I'm crying.
How often are the 4:30 starts?
Oh, not that often really. You're kind of only doing that when it's kind of like a restaurant and they need you to kind of get in before the chefs start getting in there to prepare for the breakfasts and whatever else. So it's not that often.
I can just hear so many people at home who are like, I've got a full-time job, I can't really justify training.
Or the tradies.
Damn it.
There are some tradie runners out there, and they tell me about how hard it is.
Well, I was going to ask you, so it sort of blows my mind that a bloke who's qualified, run on an Olympic team, going to another Olympics, we'll talk about that in a minute, hopefully.
Well,
hopefully another Olympics. Is still working a full-time job, but more than that, like you're probably on your feet all day during that time as well, eh? You're not just sitting behind a desk resting up.
You're definitely on your feet all the time, and some days are worse than the others. So I found that there's been quite a few days where I just get home from work and I'm just like, I can't get out the door today. I'm just so tired from work that a nap or whatever is going to be more vital. If I wake up from this nap and feel all right, then I'll go for my run. Sometimes I just don't get a run in that day just because it's just so exhausting and I'm just so tired. So I'm just like, it's either stress the immune system a little bit more and run the risk of getting sick, get the work done, or just try and make up for it on another day. And generally, I might try and make up for it on another day. I just got to read the situation a bit, how I'm feeling, how the body's feeling, and I kind of feel that that's made me a smarter runner. So I don't get as sick that often anymore. Like I guess as a kid I was an asthmatic, so I had all issues with the lungs and whatever else, and I guess that situation in Berlin for that prep was kind of similar to what I used to get all the time. So I'd get like a little chest infection or a cough and it would last maybe a month. So I was always thoughtful of, if I go out and do this run, is it that important? Am I running the risks? You've got to assess whether basically there's more benefit than the risk. So some situations where a jog probably isn't that beneficial. You're probably best to have some rest. I've kind of felt that I've picked it quite well recently and I don't get as sick as what I used to get. So
have you ever had the chance to, apart from that 4-week block that you're talking about, have you ever had a chance just to live the life of a professional athlete in terms of just wake up, run, rest, recover, etc.?
To an extent when I did uni and that.
Yeah.
That's probably the opportunity, but I still had, during that period, I was still doing maybe 1 or 2 nights of night fill at the local Woolworths. So you got to kind of support yourself. And I was kind of heading towards maybe being able to be a professional athlete, and I was meeting the standards for NAS funding or whatever else, support from the sport. But I was always told when I met the criteria that, sorry, it was discretion. So,
and what is that? That's just Athletics Australia going, yes, no, you're in, you're out.
Basically, so I'd meet the criteria time-wise, and I'd be like, okay, cool. So that's going to help my running in that. And then I'd be like, the head of athletics would go, or the head of performance would go, no, we don't see you as being on our radar. So,
but how do they justify it? Like, what do they say to you as the reason for it? Because that seems crazy to me.
I don't know. There's politics. There's favourites and all that type of thing, and people look after each other in that situation. So I kind of knew that I wasn't on their radar and that I'd never meet their criteria. So I was like, look, I got to start thinking of the future. So I guess that's how I got into the trade was, well, I wanted to do that out of high school, but I was taught I was always taught that there's going to be too labouring on the body and stuff like that. But I thought, look, I've got to start thinking of the future. So that's how I got into it. I contacted a few people, a few runners, Nath Hardigan.
The king of Ballarat.
Yeah.
He's a legend.
Kane Wheely, PJ Bosch.
Oh, yeah.
All these guys who... running background, who are Sparkies and stuff like that, and I contacted them and said, what do you think of this? I've got to start thinking of the future. Obviously, been told that I'm not going to make it as a professional runner and whatever else. So, so it's just like they've gone basically, some have said, yeah, you can do it. You can still manage it. But some have said, say goodbye to your running career. Yeah. So, I contacted them and I'm just like, yeah, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do it. And decided to do it. And that's how I got into my apprenticeship and the trade.
I would love to know how many blokes working those hours and run a 2-hour 10 marathon.
And the hilarious thing, I go out and run a 2:10:48, which is the fastest times for 17 or so years, and still not on their radar.
Okay. So this is
it's the favourites,
dude. But it makes Athletics Australia look ridiculous. I think that's the chaos. I can say it now because I've got nothing to do.
I won't say too
much.
No,
this is pure Tyson Popplestone's words. But it's just I just don't understand. I'd love to be able to sit down and have a chat with them about what are you thinking? Because what did you say? The fastest time in however many years?
Since 2003, I think.
Going into 17 years, going into an Olympics. Lee Troop was a Nike-sponsored man, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And what you won the Melbourne Marathon wearing your tradies kit. So what is that? So for those of you, especially in the States, who might not know the tradies kit over here, Liam runs in it's like a fluorescent yellow. Yeah,
a high-vis.
A high-vis shirt. And I remember I was lined up at the 2018 Melbourne Marathon. And I saw you at the start line, gave you a shout out, and I was standing back there, and I think I was more decked out in terms of the gear that I was wearing. And I looked at you, and I was thinking, I reckon Liam's rocking a high vis shirt. What's going on there? But is that just because your work's pretty much your sponsor? No one else is looking after you at this stage, so you may as well just rep that. Or what's the story behind the shirt?
Well, I guess I did lose my sponsorship. It wasn't really anything that.
So Adidas. Yeah, Addy Run.
Yeah, I was Addy running with you. So, so did all that stuff. Had just the product type of deal where they look after you with product and stuff like that. And went into Commonwealth Games in Gold Coast, and it'd been 6 months of emails and no replies. And I'm just like, well, obviously I'm not sponsored, but I haven't been told that I'm not sponsored and they can't look after me. So I sent them an email saying thank you for all the support over the years, but looks like I've just got to start buying my own gear and stuff like that. And no response to that. But I just started buying my own gear, and there's just an idea, well, I'm not sponsored, not aligned with any brands. I work to support my running. So, you know what? Why not do something different? And that's where the tradie singlet come out, was through that. And hilarious thing with that Melbourne Marathon, running along with a few of the Kenyans and international runners, and I get this call along Fitzroy Street. We're running along and someone's yelled out, "You're only cheating yourself." I'm like, that's at me. I think they just think that I've just ran and I've just jumped in at some point, and then I'm wearing a tradie singlet, or, well, probably to them, I might have looked like the local garbage man trying to grab bins off the side of the road. So, I had a bit of a chuckle during that race, and up there with the Kenyans, mixing it with them in
not mixing it, you kicked their ass, didn't you? You beat them.
Yeah, won Melbourne Marathon that day. So and ever since that day, I've had a lot of personal messages in inboxes, maybe Instagram, Facebook, or whatever, and people are just saying how inspired they were from that run, seeing an everyday person, someone who is the same as them. Like, I guess people get stressed out with their work. They work full time and they struggle to mix their balance, their work life and hobby balances and running and whatever else. So they have their struggles, and I've had my struggles with balancing the work and running. And a lot of people have messaged me saying that they've been inspired to see someone who's exactly like them go mix it with some professional runners and stuff like that, and showing that it can be done, that you can still run well, working a full-time job in that. So got plenty of messages, and there's been quite a few tags of people wearing the tradie singlet as well in races. So
have you got an official tag for it? Because, mate, that's the good thing about these kind of stories. Like, as frustrating as it is to a bloke like me who knows enough about athletics to know how ridiculous it is that you're not running around in a kit, or you don't have a heap of funding or whatever behind you.
Well, there has been a few little sponsorship offers, and it's been a little bit of gear, and I had one company say, "Oh, here's a race kit for you," and I'm just like, "You don't sponsor me, so why should I wear a professional sponsored kit when you're not even looking after me?" I'm different to these guys I race. They're professionals. I'm an amateur. So I'm just like, no, I'm wearing my tradie singlet. Yeah, their kit might be a lot better and thinner and not going to create as much chafe or whatever, but I'm different to them. So I was just like, no, I'm not wearing the kit and like that. So
you should. It's so funny. I feel like I've got my agent's hat on right now. I keep thinking about all the people that we could get in contact with just to be able to hook you up. But that'll be probably easy to talk about than it will be to set up. You've got more swinging power than me. But even Jess she's rocking an ASICS sponsor. I don't understand why a brand like that wouldn't look. Have you reached out to these guys yourself, or you're just happy to rock it and as long as you're running well?
I guess working full time, you can kind of afford your own gear. Yeah. So I've just been like, you know what? I'm not going to jump through hoops and whatever else to just get a couple of pairs of shoes, a couple of pairs of shorts, and some singlets for the year. Yeah. I can afford that. Why not just stay unsponsored?
Yeah, it's a good option.
And the fact is, I kind of find it more fulfilling that it's motivating other people. So why wear a sponsored kit? Why pretend I'm sponsored when I'm not? And why not try and inspire people to run a bit better, get out there and try and chase some PBs? So it's like, why bother?
Yeah, that's a great point, man. That's a great point. And for the amount of feedback, I did an interview with Ben Buckingham a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
And I think I called it Balancing Full-Time Work and Balancing Full-Time Work and Full-Time Training. And it's one of the most popular episodes. And I think it is because so many people have connected with the fact that, so say 95% of my audience, I don't know for sure, are working full-time. A lot of these people are dealing with the stress of, oh crap, I might not be able to actually reach my potential because of I've got all these other, I've got family to deal with, I've got work to deal with, I've got all these other commitments. But to hear a bloke like yourself speak, and it's not even, you've just pumped a little bit of blood into this story by saying it's not even just sitting behind a desk. You're you're on your feet. That is cool, man. It doesn't surprise me that so many people have connected with that message.
Yeah.
And you'll be the only official qualifier at the moment for the Olympics if they take place. We've got to talk about that.
Yeah, there's 3 qualifiers, and we're all pretty close in time.
So who's qualified? Actually, Robbo's probably
he's
qualified.
only a few seconds behind me, and there's Jack, who's only a few seconds behind Brett as well.
So I wasn't sure whether Jack had already qualified.
Yeah, he's got to qualify.
But he's just injured at the moment.
Yeah.
Okay, because I thought for some reason that he'd run a qualifying time, but it was outside of the...
No, it's in the qualifying period, and that's... Yeah.
So what's your headspace like at the moment in terms of, okay, so you got the time, you got the selection, you're just hoping there's going to be a bloody Olympics. Like who prepares for the coronavirus? Yeah. What a weird experience.
Current scope and environment, wow, it's tough, isn't it? So I was pretty lucky to get my marathon in the time that it was, and there was, from what I heard from the organisers of this Japanese marathon, Lake Biwa, there was some pressure over there to kind of maybe cancel the race too. And it wasn't a mass gathering type marathon, but they're kind of getting quite strict with their rules over there. And so that wasn't going to go ahead. And within running that race, a few days later, it just seemed like everything was shutting up. All these races being cancelled and postponed, and as it's a few weeks later, it's basically like, well, I can't see anyone getting their qualifying races now. So how's that fair? It's like it's been compromised, the qualifying period. So you're going to have to extend it a few months or whatever else. And when do you extend it? No one knows how bad this coronavirus is going to be. It might last half a year, could last a few months. Things might get better soon. Things might take a year or two to get better. So it's, I guess, the fact that Olympics haven't made a decision, I guess you kind of want to know that the Olympics is being postponed or cancelled or whatever else, but I kind of see that they're doing the right thing by not making a statement now and saying, here's your new date. They're trying to hold out until they've got more information and seeing whether countries are dropping in their rates and whatever else. So I think they're doing the right thing by delaying that statement of, all right, we need to delay it by half a year, delay it by 2 years or whatever else, or cancel it. So I think they're just trying to gather more information to make a bit more of an informed decision. So it's kind of frustrating not having the knowledge of whether it's going ahead or not, and it's hard to get motivated to kind of get out there when you don't have the races to try and build up towards and whatever else, and you don't know when those races are coming back. So it's like hard to try and get back into peak fitness right now. But I don't know, it's been a bit of fun just jogging around with friends and catching up with friends like today, just seeing quite a few runners that I haven't caught up with for a long time. So
where'd you run today?
Out at Yarra Flats.
Oh, beautiful. So who'd you run out there with?
Alfie Elam.
The king.
Madeline Hyder, and there's Lyndon Hall.
Group, is it?
Yeah, Watram's group, and then there's Scrivo's group, Steve Deneen's group, and a few others. So I think there's at least...
How much of a great bloke Alf Ayler?
Yeah.
He's the king, man.
And I hadn't seen him for a long time, so...
I bumped into it at Dan Murphy's a couple of weeks ago. I just remembered I said I was going to text him and I bloody forgot. I'm going to do that as soon as we finish this podcast.
Yeah. So once that run had finished, I think I was probably still there for about half an hour. Half an hour to an hour just chatting to people that I haven't seen for a long time.
How far did you run today?
I did 20K. So
20K. So you're in I love that you say you run 20K, but when you got to my house, you said you're in like a recovery period. So 20K to you is just that's just turning the legs over, just keeping them ticking along.
Well, yeah, I guess. I haven't really put any emphasis on doing any sessions or that over the last few weeks. It's just been get out there and run when you want or can.
Yeah.
And
how long ago was the marathon in Japan? Yeah.
Exactly 2 weeks now. So today was 2 weeks. So
I guess. Gee.
I meet up with my coach on Tuesday, and we'll kind of go through what we're kind of planning towards now. And I don't know if I can. We can go and plan towards something that's probably not going to happen, but I think you just got to start trying to get fit again and just get self-driven,
So as an athlete, it's more of you're just taking it a day at a time, just to pretty much see whether this is going to happen. You can't do much else, I guess, can you? It's just even the footy clubs that I've been doing a bit of work with down here, they're going, all right, the season's been. This is obviously not the top level, but more of the country level. The season's been delayed a little bit, and just to see that, I don't want to say necessarily like the lack of motivation, but just the uncertainty that comes with not having a flat out start point can really affect your, I guess, your training structure, like you just said. So, are you guys like after your 2 weeks of easy running, will you just start gradually building as though you're going to the Olympics, or will you just start running a lot and then once you get a bit more of a word, you'll start to really tailor it specifically to the events that you're going to?
Well, I think it'd be silly not to try and prepare for the Olympics, because if they decide it goes ahead, and I guess they'll cop a fair bit of from the media and everything like that. So you just got to prepare that it's going ahead. They haven't announced that it's not. So, and I've just got to hope that I've got a position at the Olympics and whatever else. Currently in the qualifying positions, I should be going, but then again, could be discretion. But I think
here. I'm going to put my boxing gloves on.
No, they've got the opportunity. Well, interestingly, this Olympics, it's a capped field. Mm-hmm. So generally, it's been every country can send 3 athletes and that, but now it's a capped field of maybe about 84 or so. So Rio Olympics was a field of maybe 190, and this time it's only 84. So it's been really tough because they've added some new sports, surfing and whatever else, skateboarding.
Oh, have they?
Yeah.
Dude,
so there's all these new sports, and it's basically been they've got a limited amount of beds, so they've gone, all right, we need to start capping fields and whatever else. So athletics in general took a massive hit. So the standards have been ridiculous. I think maybe for the 10K it was equivalent of you nearly had to run an Australian record to make
I heard this. So I think, what was it, like the qualifying time was 27:30 or something, and I think Stewie broke the Australian record to qualify.
Yeah.
And then Paddy Tiernan was second and just missed it.
Exactly.
And I reckon up until 2 or 3 years ago, it would have been 27:50 maybe.
Yeah, and Pat's just gone and ran maybe third fastest time ever, fourth fastest time in Australian's history, and that's not good enough to qualify. So
that's a crazy thought.
It's quite tough, this qualifying period and the qualifying standards. So from what I've been told, because the marathon's been moved from Tokyo to Sapporo, that now that they're not restricted by beds in the Olympic Village, they've now got a higher, like they can probably take more on. And I think they had this original system of 211. They had this idea and they did this statistical analysis of qualifying and whatever else, all the marathons that's been ran over the last 10 years or so. And they said, all right, they're trying to introduce a point system. So they said, all right, we think that we're going to get 2/3 of the field run this time. Yeah. So they set 2:11:30 as the standard to qualify, like an automatic qualifying time. And then they said, all right, this next third's going to come from points system. So it's going to encourage people to do special races, Oceania champs or whatever, regional championships. So they had this idea they wanted to encourage people to do that. And their times, they kind of got their statistics a bit wrong, and I think it's probably the carbon fibre shoe effect that we're kind of seeing now. And they've basically filled the full quota from full of time, so people have qualified through time. So it just meant that it eliminated people trying to qualify through points in the marathon. But yeah, they said they were going to honour something along the lines of everyone who ran the time. They're going to go 3 per country, they've got their spots honoured if they wanted to take their spots. So I think that means they're going to have a field which is going to be more than 84 this year because they've filled the quota in times, and they weren't expecting that. But I think they've now said that they'll honour that.
Yeah.
So there might be a field of maybe 90 or 100 people or something like that.
Yeah,
so,
right. Mate, there'll be plenty of Japanese, or there'll be plenty of marathon runners in general who'd be craving that Japan marathon because it's got a reputation for being so quick, I reckon. Has it? It's as fast on. Maybe I'm just saying that because you and Brett have just returned from Japan.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Japan, their running culture is crazy. I'd say they're the best nation in the world for marathon running and endurance events. So they love it.
What makes it so good? Like it's so crazy. Like when I think of Japanese, I don't necessarily think of the marathon, but everyone who comes back from there is like, dude, that's the place to be as a distance runner. It's
such a big sport over there, the marathon running. So they've got corporate teams and all that. So people are making livings over there running for these corporate teams and whatever else. And they've just got a culture. I guess maybe it's a samurai culture. There's something along the lines of endurance was a trait of the samurai. And maybe that's why they've got this deep respect for the marathon. And the marathon's massive over there. So the race that I did, Lake Biwa, generally not many people would know. Like, I guess if you're into your running, you probably would know of Tokyo Marathon. Yeah. So Lake Biwa is probably not that well known around the world. But the race that I did, they had more people tune in for that race than they do for the AFL Grand Final.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, and I think I saw something, the female Nagoya Marathon, the female elite marathon in Nagoya that day, they had 40 million watch that live. So marathon running's massive over there.
So it's a household event for these big marathons.
It's a big event. Like, you've got a few sports over in Japan which are massive, like your baseball, football and all that type of stuff. And marathon running's up there as well. And I just found it a bit ludicrous that the Olympic Committee thought that, you know what, we're going to reduce the number of one of the biggest sports over in Japan and cap the field at 84 or 86 or whatever it was. And I'm just like, this is moronic. So this is one of your biggest events. You can line the streets of Tokyo with millions of people.
Yeah.
I could only imagine how big that it'd be. I've done a few races over in Japan, and there's, let's say, the Ekinen relays, the Chiba Ekinen relays, and you've got people lining the streets 10 deep.
Just to see you boys running past.
Crazy, absolutely crazy how much they love their running over there. And I just thought, this is the dumbest decision they could ever make.
Yeah, it'd just be amazing to see that many people lined up, wouldn't it? It'd be great to watch. I wonder if that's the reason they moved it, just because they're like, this is going to be too hard to control.
No, it was they copped a lot over holding the marathon in Doha or the World Championships in Doha. So they're like, oh, you've chosen money over athletes' health, and IAAF are trying to save face and go, well, we're thinking about health here.
The athletes are going, but what about the sport?
So, yeah, they just decided to go, all right, well, it's 6 degrees cooler at this time of the morning in Sapporo, which is, I think, the equivalent of Melbourne to Sydney. So it's 6 degrees cooler at this time of the day. We'll move the race to Sapporo, and that's what happened.
How did you find it as an athlete over there personally? Like, I don't know if many of the locals knew that you were there for the marathon until you ran it, but did they treat you a little bit like royalty? Were they looking after you?
No, they probably just thought I was just a tourist.
Yeah,
so,
sure.
Yeah, for me, I'm just a standard tourist and stuff like that. And I did meet a few people which were runners over there, and some Japanese runners, and they told me about some articles that I didn't have a clue about. Apparently there were some articles about me being a tradie runner from Australia.
Wow.
So yeah, that was interesting.
That's
to hear
really
that
interesting,
stuff.
man. That's really cool.
But we were talking to some locals, like just after the race, and talking about the marathon and whatever else, Lake Biwa, and we just show them a photo. Like, they might not be into their running, but we showed them a photo of us having a photo with Yuki Koauchi. Yeah, I was over in Japan. So full-time teacher. Apparently, if you're in a government position, like being a teacher or whatever else, you can't take on a supplementary income. So he's been running, he's renowned for running lots and lots of marathons per year. 8, 12 or so, even more than 12 marathons a year. He's got the world record for sub 2:20 marathons and stuff like that.
Do you know how fast he's run, what his best time is?
I think 2:08 something. So yeah, he's crazy good, and he's a big thing over there. And he wasn't professional until recently, but yeah, well known for being the citizen runner. And we showed a photo just to some people which didn't know much about marathon running, but they were like, they lost it. They're going, oh, Yuki Koauchi, and they absolutely love him. And apparently he's got an impersonator who makes a living off being an impersonator of Yuki Koauchi.
That's when you know you've made it.
It's crazy.
It's
so
like
marathon running's big over there.
Yeah,
so,
dude, that's really insane.
Yeah,
it's going to be interesting to watch. Man, I've just said we've already talked for an hour.
Wow.
How you going? Are you?
Yeah, not bad.
Hey, I was going to say, you look like I always start looking at the eyes of the person who's on here at this time just to see if they've still got life in it, and you're still looking strong, but maybe that could just be your endurance kicking through. You still got a little 30 minutes in you, because
of course, yeah,
awesome, man. Because this is we'll end this one here.
Yep.
But if you're a Relax Running member, jump on over to the membership, because I'm going to pick Liam's brain on a few questions around just simple tips for improving your marathon, simple tips for improving your distance running in general. But dude, that was fun.
Yeah,
that was good. I hope it was fun for you. That's all.
Yeah, well,
just a
definitely good to catch up with you, mate. It's been a long time. So.
That's the best thing about this podcast is, again, I said to Jess yesterday, I reckon it's been the best thing for mine and her relationship, because, so this isn't my Jess, this is Jess Stenson, because I hadn't talked to her much in the last 10 years. It's just when you see her, how you going, what are you doing? And I caught up with her twice in the last 2 months now. So I'm gonna be reigniting so many friendships just through this thing. But it's good to catch up with her.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, cheers for having me, and good to catch up with you.
Too easy.